Thank you. All right, so we haven't yet talked to. Okay, I see where we are. All right. Okay, so last time we talked about the Reformation, correct? Okay. All right, and did we talk about? Okay. Have we done St. Anthony's Fire yet? Okay, all right, there we go. All right, so we're going to Germany. All right, and to show you where Germany is on the map, all right, how do you know which one is Germany? Right, but what shape does it make? That's right, it makes Pac-Man shape. All right, so we are going to this hospital in Germany. This is not where the artwork is, it's where the artwork was back in the 1500s. All right, so this hospital, this monastery, it treats St. Anthony's fire disease. So, what is St. Anthony's fire disease? It's a disease caused by eating fungus that grows on rye flour. It causes convulsions and gangrene, and oftentimes requires amputations. So it has all these like red spots on your skin. You can see in that photograph in the lower right that they have gangrene and their fingers are going to have to be amputated. So it is a very unpleasant disease. And it shows up in art a lot. So I show you this image, or I teach you about St. Anthony's Fire because it is related to this artwork right here called the Eisenheim altarpiece. It does look like he was being consumed by dogs. Yeah, that when you have smelly spots on your skin, then that attracts dogs because dogs like smelly things. All right, and that hospital that I showed you was a hospital devoted to Saint Anthony. All right, and I show you this photograph to show you how large this altarpiece is. In Texas, we call this a biggin, and it is a polyptych. Are we good? All right. We got to move on if we want to finish today. All right. Everybody knows what an altar is. It is that table type thing that is up at the front of the church that the priests put their the books on. They put their ceremonial attributes on, and then behind the altar then would be the altarpiece. And this other photograph, this photograph here on the right, is like would be kind of a typical church in America, quite smallish. But in Europe, with these massive cathedrals, the altarpieces also become absolutely massive and gargantuan. All right. Again, this is our altarpiece, the Eisenheim altarpiece, and I want to show you this quick little video that shows you how it opens. This is a model of the altarpiece. It's not the actual thing. So it opens once, and there's extra pictures on the inside, and then it opens again. And then the bottom panel opens up. All right, so that shows you how this altarpiece works. So that is the innermost part right there. This is the inner part, and then this is the exterior. And this is the one that we're going to focus on. This is the Eisenheim altarpiece fully closed. So if we look at like the composition is rather balanced. We have Christ in the middle making this T shape, and then we have figures on the left and the right. We have 3 figures on the left and 1 figure on the right, plus a lamb. But if we look close at this, we can see the suffering, and this is what the Germans are so good at. Do you remember the Röntgen Pietà? All right, the Germans are really good at showing suffering. And I want you to look close at the skin of Christ. He's got a bunch of thorns in his skin from the crown of thorns. But what else is going on with his skin? Yeah, he's got these spots. He's got the St. Anthony's disease. And so the message here is that God understands your pain. And then if you look at the feet, that is an act like that looks like a horror movie right there. That looks so incredibly painful and horrible. Just looking at it makes you, or at least it makes me, really I feel awkward and uneasy. Right. So once again, the Germans are excellent at expressing pain and suffering. And again, it's trying to show that Christ understands your pain. All right, on the left, we have Mary Magdalene. Her hair is extra long. She washed his feet and never cut her hair after that. And then on the right, we have this St. John the Baptist. And then below that, we have this lamb. And you might recognize that lamb from the Ghent altarpiece, where it has this hole in the chest and blood coming out and into a cup. And then down below, there's this line going through Christ's legs. And it's right at the same part that people usually get amputated for St. Anthony's disease. So that is why Christ is seen as being on the right. So if you look at the composition here, it's very asymmetrical. Christ is on the right instead of in the middle, which is typical of Renaissance art. Is everything's very balanced, but here it is pushed far to the right. Again, we have that St. Anthony's disease all over him. And then on the sides of this, we have St. Sebastian and St. Anthony, and they are associated with miracle cures. All right, and I want you to know who Albrecht Dürer is. He is the first artist outside of Italy to be international celebrity. Oh, one reason I like this guy is he's got a really cool signature. He is a Renaissance man. So I haven't used this term yet, but a Renaissance man is somebody who is good at many different things. Michelangelo was a Renaissance man because he was good at sculpture and he was good at painting. He was also an architect. I didn't go into this, but the dome of the cathedral in Vatican City is designed by Michelangelo. And he was also good at poetry. The guy wrote poems, and he had poems that were published. So he was a very talented guy. So that is a Renaissance man, somebody who's good at many different things. And Albrecht Dürer is one of those. He was one of the best artists of his generation. He traveled to Italy and studied Italian Renaissance. And in this portrait, we can see some of that Italian influence where it is a half-length portrait, which is typical of Italian portraiture. And then we have focus on the hand in that portrait, which is a symbol of the artist's creativity. And we can compare it to like the idols of the Middle Ages and the medieval era. And just above him, his shoulder, he has this inscription that says, "Thus I, Albrecht Dürer of Nuremberg, made an image of myself in appropriate colors in my 28th year." So that's like a long way to sign it. But it's not his paintings that I want us to look at. It is the engraving and printmaking that he was so talented at that he made his fortune in. He was as good a businessman as he was an artist. And through marketing his artwork through prints, he made a lot of money selling his artwork. Most of the artists that we're going to look at this semester uh, did not, they died poor. So this is one of those few that was very, very rich throughout his life because of business decisions that he made with his art. Dürer is the first artist ever to file a lawsuit over artistic copyright. He accused an Italian artist of copying his prints. And he was the best printmaker of his era. Let me explain why the difference between prints and paintings. And I know I've shown you the videos of how they're made, but a painting, it takes you, like 20 hours to make a painting. And then in order to make another one just like it, you'd have to spend maybe another 20 hours. But a print, you can print a whole bunch, like you can print hundreds, even thousands of them and sell them. And because you have so many, you're flooding the market, you can sell them for cheaper. If more people buy your print because it's less expensive, like, in order to make your money back from painting, it's very expensive to buy a painting because it takes so much time and talent to create a painting. But a print, it doesn't take much time, so you can sell it for cheaper, and people are more willing to buy a print than a painting because it's less expensive. And thus you can sell more of them. And thus also you can have your image in multiple places and more people will see your image. So it's kind of like an advertisement. But to show the skill of this guy, I want to show you these two pictures. And with the rabbit, you can see the fur. Like every hair on that fur is painted. Every little line on the wing is painted. And if you look at this image right here of the grass, every blade, every leaf is painstakingly painted and just amazing realism. And I want to remind you that Northern Renaissance, these artists are so concerned with detail. And so this is the culmination of all that attention to detail, is doing things that are very realistic. But I'm here to talk about prints, and so I show you this. This is the typical size of a print by Dürer. And in order to understand our next print, I want you to understand what the four humors are. The humors are fluids that are inside your body that regulate your health, according to Renaissance science at that time. So there are four humors. There's your melancholic humors, there's your choleric humors, the phlegmatic humors, and the sanguine humors. If you are healthy, all four of your humors are balanced. You have an equal amount of all of them. But if you are not healthy, you have too much of one or not enough of one, or a combination of that. And then also your personality is based on the humors. For example, if you have a lot of phlegmatic humors in your body, all right, if you have too much phlegm, then you are a very reasonable person. You're principled, you're controlled, you're persistent, you're calm. If you have a lot, all right, so let me go through the humors. All right, phlegmatic humors, that's exactly what it sounds like. Phlegm. Everybody knows what phlegm is, right? All right, it's disgusting, right? Yeah. All right, sanguine, that's your blood. Choleric, that is the yellow bile, like when you throw up and there's nothing left to throw up. That is the yellow bile that comes out of your mouth when you are vomiting. And then the melancholic, that is the black bile that is in your body. I've never seen black bile. I don't know what they're talking about, but all right, somehow there's black bile in your body. Okay, all right. So then that's where it comes from. Yes, thank you. So and this is believed to regulate the bodies well up until the 1850s. So this is the idea behind our health and personality till very recently in the world. And I find that like this is so archaic to me. I find that difficult to believe that even into the 1850s that people believe this. All right, so let's move on to our artwork, Melancholia 1. And some people believed all artists were melancholic because they were born under the sign of Saturn and had an excess of black bile in their bodies. Lots of melancholic depression. So the excess of melancholic humors means melancholic depression, and artists tend to be depressed people, and so then artists are said to have melancholy. So this is an artwork based on melancholy. And another title for this painting or this print is The Brooding Angel. So we have an angel here in the lower right-hand corner who appears androgynous in nature. We can't tell if it's a male or female angel. And melancholy is traditionally a female trait, according to art historians. All right, so there's a lot of details in this, and I wanted to share them all with you. But for time constraints, we're going to just do the top 5 details about this print. So the number 5 detail is the melancholia is written into this print being held by a bat. And bats are seen as creatures of the dark. And behind the bat is a burst of light, which represents hope. And so the message here is that artists can overcome their melancholy and produce genius works of art if they get beyond that. Oh, by the way, Melancholia 1, there are 3 levels of melancholy. So this is the lightest. This is diet melancholy. All right. So it's the lightest one. It's not heavy melancholy. So this is just a general depression, not wanting to work. All right. This isn't like, I don't want to eat anymore kind of depression. All right. The number 4, the buttercup and watercress that is on the angel's crown is a symbol of, these are antidotes to dryness, which was associated with melancholy. The number 3, yeah, this one's kind of gross, but I thought it was funny. All right, so this tool over here on the right side is called a clyster. And a clyster is a tool to relieve constipation, which is associated with melancholy. And so if you look at that tool, I guess you can imagine how it is used. All right, and then moving on, all these tools down at the feet of the angel, these are all tools that artists use, but are not being used because they're feeling melancholic. That when you're feeling depressed, you don't want to make stuff, so your tools go unused. And then the number 1 detail of this is the memento mori, the symbol that death is near, that we are all going to die. I'm going to die, you're going to die, we're all going to die. And so it's the bell that is the memento mori. The bell, like when somebody dies, the bell rings. And also the hourglass to the left, or the sands of time are constantly running out. And so if our lifespan is this hourglass filled with sand, each minute that passes by is another grain of sand that falls down, and we never get that back. All right. So there's melancholy. Another print that I wanted to share with you is the fall of man. This is where Adam and Eve eat the forbidden fruit of knowledge, and they are expelled from the Garden of Eden. They are depicted as, quote unquote, perfect male and female figures. At the bottom, we have a choleric cat, a melancholy elk, a sanguine rabbit, and a phlegmatic ox. And the tension between the cat and the mouse is the tension between Eve and Adam. Another cool print by Albrecht Dürer is The Night, the Death, and the Devil. This embodies a Protestant ideals that the Christian knight is God's soldier, and a knight is a metaphor for the perfect Christian. Death is there with his hourglass right here. And notice that the knight is ignoring death, that the knight, because he is Christian, has no fear of death, because he knows that when he dies, he will go to heaven. So there's no reason to fear death. We have a dog underneath that is a symbol of fidelity, faithfulness for the knight, and being faithful to God. And the meaning of this print is that armed with faith, he has no fear of temptation. And again, we have a memento mori down in the lower left with that skull. All right, but the cool one I wanted to show you is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And we've got 4 horses here being ridden by people. And do you know the 4 horsemen? Can you name them? Death is one. Famine is another. War and plague. All right. And so I have here in my notes, we have conquest, war, famine, and death. All right. So conquest and plague would be, I guess, be interchangeable. All right. And then so the 4 horsemen, the white horseman is conquest. The red horseman is war. The black horseman is famine. And the pale horseman is death. Well, how can you know which one is which in here? Because they're not colored. So how do you know which is which? Right, it's by their attributes. All right, so I want you to remember what an attribute is. It's like Heracles' lion skin. All right, so how do you know which one is war, or in which one is death, and which one is famine? It's by their attributes. So we got a guy with a bow and arrow. That's conquest. There's a guy with a sword. That's war. There's a guy with scales. That is famine, and a guy with a trident. That is death. All right, we got to move on because I want to finish today. All right, I want you to know the French ambassadors. I put this photograph in here to show you how large the French ambassadors is. And it's weird to have oil and tempera on wood. Tempera is a water-based, and oil has oil in it. So oil and water don't mix well. But it works well on wood, whereas Leonardo's Last Supper was oil and tempera on the wall, and that did not work out so well for Leonardo. Now you can put tempera first and then do oil on top of that. That works better than putting oil first and then putting tempera on top of that. All right, I'm going to move on. So this is a rather boring picture, I believe. We know there's a lot of detail, and that's kind of the cool thing of this this picture is the details of it. But, basically it's just a portrait. But there's one thing in this portrait that is really, but here's some of the details. Right. Again, this is Northern Renaissance. Northern Renaissance is obsessed with details. But do you notice anything weird in this painting? Yeah, there's some weird thing down at the bottom. All right. What is that? All right. Yeah, I know, right. Because it kind of gets by you. But there's this. That's called an anamorphic image. A distorted image that can only be seen properly from an acute angle. Are we good with this definition? You've probably seen anamorphic images online. Have you seen sidewalk art like this? All right. So when you look at it from one point of view, that looks like a spherical globe. All right. But then when you look at it from another side, it's actually flat, proving flat earthers were correct all along. All right. I'm just kidding. So if you look at this painting from this weird angle, like from the side, we have that anamorphic image and we see this skull. I'm going to skip past this. Vanitas painting is basically the same thing as the Memento Mori. It's to remind us that we're all going to die. I'm going to die. You're going to die. We're all going to die. So get your affairs in order. All right, so that finished us for part one of this chapter. I'm going to quickly go into part two, part D. All right, let's go run through the art museum. We're going to the Netherlands. Where are the Netherlands? They're up there in between France and Germany and England. All right, during the Middle Ages, all right, it is believed that sex is a contributing factor of man's downfall from grace. All right, so it is sex is a taboo image, and also during this Middle Ages and the Renaissance, artists are coming up with new and terrifying images of hell. And the unwritten rule at the time is that artists should only illustrate things that happened in the Bible. If you're doing a religious artwork, only paint pictures of stuff that's in the Bible. So on this next artwork, we're going to see that rule getting broken. So I want you to know the Garden of Earthly Delights by Hieronymus Bosch. And I put this picture in here to show you the size of the artwork. All right, and from here on out, you can abbreviate Garden of Earthly Delights as GOED. Another picture showing you the size of the artwork. All right, this is a incredibly complicated painting, but we're going to get through it rather quickly. So it is a triptych. So it folds in on itself, and it has 3 panels in the center. And on the left, we have paradise. In the center, we have earth, and on the right, we have hell. And the only thing that this painting has in common with other religious paintings at the time, that it is a triptych. This was commissioned as a conversation piece, and oh boy, what conversations we can have about this artwork. This is a typical triptych at that time, where the main painting is in the center, and on the left and on the right, you either have saints or you have donors. In this case, we have donors. And how can you tell they are donors? They're kneeling. All right, but let's forget about this one. But this is a typical triptych. This is a very atypical triptych. And so in this case, all panels are equal to the story. When they are closed, we create the world on the third day of creation. We're separating the earth from the water and air. Also, further proof of flat Earth right there. Yeah, it's a sphere, but the Earth is actually flat. You know that, and that's kind of what the flat earthers are saying, is that Earth is a flat under a big dome. All right. So I'm going to kind of skip past the grisaille. It's painted in grisaille, so it's black and white. One little detail is we have God up in the upper left-hand corner, and there's a quote that says, "For he spoke, and it was done." And on the other side, "For he commanded, and it stood fast." Let's get back to the inside. By the way, it's all like shades of gray on the outside and full of color on the inside. There's lots of allegories going on, these allegories, it's difficult to understand these allegories from our modern minds. They kind of made sense, a little bit more sense at the time. So I've listened to different art historians talk about this. Some say, I heard one guy say, this is a medieval acid trip. Another one say that this painting is about sexual freedom, and it's not so much eroticism. Yet another one said that this is hardcore Christianity. You're talking about the evils of the sin of lust. So this is religious propaganda. All right, so lots of weird stuff going on, lots of naked bodies, and lots of people doing very strange things. All right, so this painting gets weird, and it gets even weirder. Here we have this blue guy with a bird's head. He's eating people, and the person that he's eating has blackbirds flying out of his anus. And then as he's eating people, I guess they're passing through him, passing through this. I'm hoping this is a glass vessel, or it's another part of him that's transparent and falling into this hole down below. We have this figure down here. She seems to be passed out or something. And there's this figure with, it looks like legs or possibly arms. And he has this kind of astronaut suit on, where he has this glass faceplate that he's looking through. Over here we have, and just out of scene, we have a bunch of people playing musical instruments, but it's cacophonous because we have people covering their ears because it's so terrible. And then we have a guy with it looks like sort of a wind instrument inserted into his anus. Over here on the right, we have this guy his body is a broken eggshell, and his arms are coming out, turning into tree trunks, which are on top of boats on a frozen lake, which people are skating on. He has this wide-brimmed hats where people are dancing on the brim. We'll look at this in a few moments. But it also gets weirder. There's like weird things going on, just very, very strange. You know, what's with the guy inside the fruit with the glass and the rat, and then the guy and the owl, and the upside down guy with, I just don't, whatever. And we have these men on horses with a giant fish with a rabbit on top. Like, what is going on? All right, compositionally, we have an egg in the very center of the triptych. And this egg is a symbol of new hope and new beginnings. And it is the only unbroken, there's lots of eggs in the painting, but it's the only unbroken egg in the painting. All right, so the foreground is consistent through all three paintings. The middle ground is consistent through all three paintings, and the background is consistent through all three paintings. In the middle grounds, we have water in each of the middle grounds. And in and then in the background, notice that the buildings are all in the paradise and on earth. The buildings are all organic in the background, those towers. And then in the hell panel, they're all man-made. It's like it looks like they're skyscrapers. In each of these panels, it is divided down the middle. We have equally balanced compositions in each one. So let's take a look at the left panel. We have God giving Eve to Adam. And the face of God there used to be that of an old man, but they've done x-rays on it and they've seen that it was painted over. So they painted Jesus's face on top of God. And so it now looks to be like Jesus is giving Eve to Adam, even though Jesus hadn't been born yet. The pink figure here in the middle of the lake looks like a baptismal font. And then the center panel is just a bunch of carnal interpretation and direct corruption of God's word. So, it said, be fruitful and multiply. Well, that's what all these people are doing, but they're not doing it right. It's like a free-for-all instead of being married and raising a family. And everything in paradise in this center panel, it has some sort of sexual connotation. And then over on the right side, we have the panel of hell. There's a lot of strange things going on there. All right, there are hundreds of fun and interesting details. The first time I presented this artwork, I had 80 slides just of this one artwork, but I've whittled it down to a few for time's sake. But, one of the interesting things is like the cherries on top of her head is a symbol of male genitalia. Anytime we have hollow fruit, that is a symbol of female genitalia. All right, I've got my top 5 details of Garden of Earthly Delights countdown. All right, number 5, these glass shields and domes and structures is a reference to alchemy. Alchemy is the precursor to chemistry. So it was people playing with chemicals, but they didn't really know what they were doing. And one of the things that alchemists were trying to do was turn lead into gold. But they used a lot of glass beakers and vessels in their alchemy. The number 4 detail is this ears with the knife going through. That is a symbol of a war machine. And also, the knife cutting through ears is can be interpreted as being deaf to God's word. But it looks quite phallic, and with the ears and the direction of the knife. But what it reminds me of, you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of this toy from Toy Story. All right, number 3, we have this woman with a dye on her head, and she's holding a candle and a pitcher. This woman is a prostitute. How do we know she's a prostitute? It's because of the candle. Prostitutes at that time used candles to entice people that were passing by. Also, the dice that she has on her head, that is cheat dice. The dots are not in the right places. So it is a symbol of cheating and gambling. The number 2 detail of the Garden of Earthly Delights, we have this pig dressed up as a nun trying to get this soul to sign a contract while this demon offers a quill to sign the contract. But that contract looks like an indulgence. I've talked to you guys about indulgences. When people wanted to get into heaven in the Roman Catholic Church, they gave the church money. The church gave them an indulgence, and that allowed them to go into heaven. And then the final detail of this painting is butt music. We have music written on this guy's butt, and people have played the notes that are on that. This is what butt music sounds like. All right, we will finish there for today, and we will, looks like we will finish this this chapter on Thursday and review on Friday, test on Monday. All right, everybody, butt music, you are welcome. What'd you do in art history today? We listened to butt music.